I'll let you go first on the second one because I know it's one of your favorites. So
I think the first one is about a thriller, but this one to me, it's like that's what Chucky came in. I think his look is better. I think what makes the first one unique is he has brows, and this one he doesn't. He actually has the little stencils, and in this one they make his, I don't know if it's the iris or the pupil, I can't think which one it is, but it's like pure blue, so his eyes are bigger, and they're just weird light blue eyes. That's a lot creepier. Design's better. I think the look is the Chucky. I always consider this Chucky like Gizmo from Gremlins. Gizmo from Gremlins existed in Gremlins 2. That's where like the one you see the dolls made off of, all of the pictures online. This is the Chucky that this number 3 to me have always been like what Chucky looks like. It's just my thing.
Just as an aside, it is the favorite Chucky look by fans, so I hear. And that's why in the Chucky TV show, they actually based the look of Chucky in that show on Chucky from Child's Play 2. That's what I read.
He's never looked as good since 2 or 3. I'd say 2 and 3 are very similar. They might even use the same puppets for all I know. I think my favorite thing about 2, though, which as I gotten older I've noticed, I didn't notice as a kid, is that it's a lot more saturated. It's a lot brighter. It doesn't really do a lot of things in the shadows, which I think is impressive. I still thought it was creepy, but I also was younger. So him killing the teacher, to me, I think was it kind of got to me as a little kid, because as a kid, it's like, okay, you're safe in the sun, you're safe outside, you're safe in public places. And, when he kills the teacher, I remember being like, whoa. And then the factory thing at the end, I think the color scheme, all the yellow boxes, him ripping off his hand, putting in the knife. I mean, he goes, I don't know what I would consider that, but it's more badass. Less creepy for the most part, but I think he is creepier looking. So to me, it kind of balances out. It's less of a thriller. It's more of an action film, but it's always been a personal favorite. And something that I think is kind of cool watching it is that Andy straight up is like, I'm going to get killed. This doll wants to kill me. Nobody believes me. And he spends the first chunk of the film depressed. This poor kid. In the first one, nobody believes him, and it's more scary. Now he's accepted his fate. He's just like, he's going to kill me. But overall, it's an action film going a little more aliens than Alien. I love it, man. I 10 out of 10. I think the first one's a better movie. This one, I go 2 more. What about you? Where do you land?
I love Child's Play 2. There was nowhere else to go after 1 than to. It's like the Freddy Krueger syndrome, So after part 1, the cat's out of the bag. Where else are you gonna go?
So is this the Dream Warriors version to you or what?
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. Part 2 is no, we're talking about Elm Street, but part 2 is kind of like a beast on its own. But in terms of Nightmare on Elm Street 1, the cat's out of the bag. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Freddy is in the forefront and he's really the star. And I think the same thing happened with Chucky. Child's Play. Yeah, that's the characters and suspense driven, but now the cat's out of the bag. We know he's a killer doll, and he cusses, and he's great voice work by Dourif. So what else are you gonna do for part 2? You're gonna put him in the forefront, and it's the Chucky show. If you really think about it, part 1, part 2, and part 3 all have the same freaking storyline, just executed.
Yeah.
Doll comes in, nobody believes it's alive. He wants to possess Andy. In part 3, he wants to possess the other kid, which I forgot his name. So I guess, overall, I would give Child's Play 2 maybe an 8 or a 9 on 10. It's more like a classic slasher in terms of execution. And I don't blame the movie for it. There was nowhere else to go. Which is funny because in Curse of Chucky, they tried to go back to the original in terms of keeping Chucky in the shadows and
yeah, it was more of a suspense compared to less kills. You're right, actually.
And they pulled it off because we hadn't seen Chucky since Seed. And Child's Play 2, 8, 9 on 10, lots of fun. So, which brings us to part 3.
Child's Play 3, I think it was, it came out either a year or a little bit earlier. Yeah, right? Exactly. So they hustled this bad boy real quick.
Pulled a Elm Street 5. After Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, a Dream Master popped really big. Then they rushed job Part 5 to come out around the same month a year after. They did the same thing with Child's Play 2, which popped really big and kind of brought Chucky to the Freddy Krueger popular maniac echelon, if you will. Echelon. whatever.
But yeah, it was his moment. That's when he became a part of the slasher icons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they wanted to run with the momentum they had, aka money, and they rushed job part 3. You go first on part 3, actually.
Part 3 was 1 and 2 always existed, and I remember the reason 3 is more distinct to me is that it was the one the video store that had the giant cutout with a little blood in the lip. I remember I must have been what year is 91, so what VHS came out a year later, 92. I was young, man. Who knows? But I remember being creeped out by that fucking poster when I was a kid. The movie, obviously, to me, isn't as good. I would agree with most people that it's essentially the same story as 1 and 2 with just the different kid. Tyler, played by Jeremy Silvers, I think. I'm looking at his name. I don't think he did anything else. I argued that this is where Chucky became Freddy more because this is his one-liners were plenty in number 3. I feel like it was all one-liners. There was no development. It was just he was like a little bit cooler. I liked Justin Whalen as Andy. I think he did really good. I think the military setting was hit or miss. I think we talked about this before personally, but I still think the best scene in the movie is when Chucky unloads the blank or the paintball guns. I always thought that was cool. I don't hate it. I actually probably like it more now that I've sat back and realized like it was the end of the Chucky we knew. So there's a weird nostalgic thing to me where it's like, okay, Curse is great. I love Curse and then Cult and stuff. But this is the last time we saw Chucky as that we knew it. Like this will always be the look of Chucky. You know, he's not battle damaged. He looks good. Even the face in this TV series and Cult and Curse looks a little off and never looked as good as this or number 2. So this was the end. I think the ending set piece in the carnival, though probably dumb in logic sense, I think it's cool shit that his face gets cut off. It's all muscly and gross.
Phantom of the Opera shit.
Yeah. I would say it's not great, but if you could let go of what it is and see it just like a fun, dumb slasher, this is like the Nightmare on Elm Street 5 to me, where it's like, it's flawed as shit, but it's fun if you could just have a good time. The garbage kill and the truck with the spinning blade, which doesn't exist. We got, who's that guy that loves to cut hair? He has like a big fetish for it. He's the guy from Hellraiser.
He's the guy from Andrew Robinson, the guy from Hellraiser, the guy from Dirty Harry, the guy from Cobra.
Oh, yeah, Cobra, yeah. I think pizza with scissors, so I always thought about that.
Yeah. Actually, totally as an aside, because I just found this out, the original ending of Cobra, it's revealed that Andrew Robinson is truly the cult leader of the Killers. At the end of
I would have liked that. I thought that'd be like a twist. I always thought Cobra was cool because it's essentially 80s action mixed with a serial killer movie. And it was always such a wild crossover.
A horror act, like slasher action.
Yeah, but which doesn't exist. I mean, that's it. Well, we both love Stallone. So
let's go back. It's my bad. I brought up the Cobra. We got a good show about Cobra or something.
Yeah, well,
fucking movie, man.
Seeing where the series has gone, I do feel like I could appreciate this as the end of the era. And I think overall, it's dumb but fun. I would say 7 just because it's the end of what was Chucky to me, and he never came back to this.
I pretty much agree. I mean, they call it, series fatigue.
Yes.
It's the same plot. I like Justin Whalen.
Yeah.
As Andy, I liked him a lot, actually. He brought up vulnerability, and he kind of looked like Alex Vincent. Not Alex Vincent today, but you could buy that the kid from Child's Play 1 and 2 would become.
Similar enough features that you could exactly, you could just be like, oh, it's him enough. Yeah.
I like the quasi love story he had with that tough chick. And part 3 also included like further down the road was that Chucky can possess other people if, like the little kid, not Andy, the other kid, he saw him first, the first one to see him. So now he could possess that kid. So that kind of changed things up a little bit. But overall, it's the same shit, different setting, as you said. There are, I always found it odd that next to a military base, there was an amusement park. I was kind of like, the geography was a little off for me. But it moves fast. And like you said, it's the ending of the Chucky that we knew until he got rebooted is not the proper term, but reinvented.
Yeah.
With Bride of Chucky and then other dolls, kicked in and then they ran with it and so forth. So I think Child's Play 3 has aged very well. I would give it also a 7 out of 10. And I always enjoy myself when I watch it. So, and you're right. Chucky did become full-on Freddy. Like, one-liners were like, I think every kill he says something funny, you know? So that's full-on Freddy MO, you know? So, yeah, 7 out of 10. I know this was not on our menu, but I'm going to toss it out there. The remake, real fast. What do you think?
Where I think you and me would disagree is I've always liked the voodoo just because I think it was fun. So my issue is that it was AI. That being said, that's just because I'm a fan of the original. I think they really handled this well. It was different enough. I don't think it crosses paths. I know Mancini had an issue with it being made, and I get that it could affect his pocketbook, so I am sympathetic. But I do think the remake is different enough where it really doesn't trample on his legacy, because it really is only AI, no voodoo. It's not possessed. It's just, some safety features taken off. And I think Mark Hamill did a great job with the voice being, my sister said something to me that I never forgot. She goes, man, I just want to be this fucking doll's friend. I'm like, yeah, it's weird. Like, you always feel bad for it. It's like, this poor thing is just looking for friends all the time, you know? I'm assuming you liked it too, right? Because I remember you tweeted something once that...
Look, I'm your typical, there's many types of horror fans. For me, as a horror fan, every time they announce a remake, I lose my shit. Like Dawn of the Dead, I'm like, fuck you. Suspiria, fuck you. And I stick by fuck you for Suspiria. What an abysmal film. But, every time they put out the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, fuck you. And then I watch it, like, well, it's pretty good. Texas Chainsaw was pretty good. Dawn of the Dead was pretty good.
Trust.
Thing happened,
Evil Dead, come on.
Remake Chucky. But then I watched it, and it's one of those, damn if you do, damn if you don't. For me, I like it when a remake is different from the original. Look at it again. The Child's Play remake is E.T.
Interesting.
As he builds a relationship, he builds a friendship with the doll. He even wears the kid that plays Andy a red hoodie, just like Elliot in E.T. So it's E.T. gone wrong. It's his friend. He learns. They share time, and then he watches, what was it, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 on TV or something.
Oh yeah, Toby Hooper. Yeah,
and he goes ape shit. But it's not his fault. It's just what the AI is fed. So the doll in the remake is almost like as opposed to the original, a tragic figure. Because it's not his fault. He's not an evil doll.
He wants friends. Yeah, he just wants friends.
He wants fucking friends. What's that in? So, no, I really enjoyed the remake. I'd see another one. I know, and personally, I'm okay with the two universes existing, because the remake is no way, it's not intruding in what Mancini is doing for me. They're definitely two different lines. So yeah, no, the remake would be 7 or 8 on 10.
I'm with you though. I feel like more remakes are better than people want to give any credit for. So
yeah, I mean, really, if you stop and think about it, and I came up with this when the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake came out. There's a really fine line between what a remake and what a sequel is, because look at Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, 2, 3, 4. They're basically remakes.
All remakes, yeah, actually.
They're all remakes anyway. They're called sequels. So when Texas Chainsaw Remake came out, I remember I was like, okay, yeah, no, it's a remake, but how is this different from Leatherface Part 3?
At least let's use that series as an example. There is no continuation. Every single sequel is essentially its own beast.
Yeah.
So really, without a number, people would get upset. And I guess the remake had a couple callbacks, but if you really think about the last chunk of the movie, there's no dinner scene. The family doesn't really exist. It has the sheriff from
Arlie Ermey.
It's a weird name. Maybe I trust you.
Close to it. But you know what? I got to put an aside on this, and you got to edit it in. He has the best fucking monologue in On Deadly Ground with Steven Seagal, where he basically explains how much of a badass Steven Seagal is. So obviously for me, I watched this monologue and I'm like, yeah, Steven Seagal wrote it. Because it's so ludicrous and that it's awesomeness on a level of awesomeness that I've never seen.
You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos.
Or it's probably the end of Seagal, right? I mean, On Deadly Ground and
Other than well, is when they
He's like
wreck the movie.
I like some 90s Seagal. I mean, I know he's an idiot, but I don't give a shit. I mean, I don't like him now though when he's like 240 pounds and always sits. But
When old school Seagal,
yeah, that's
like Mark for Neff and Out for Justice.
Yes,
Those two best films are fucking amazing.
yeah. And I mean, him and Van Damme were fucking my VHS era guys.
So yeah, and to bring it back, remakes are not bad because more often than none, they're sequels. Really,
I actually like the Pet Sematary remake. Honestly, I did.
I hated it.
But I don't like the original. I fucking hate it. I think we've talked about. I like number 2 the most because it has.
Two is a blast, man.
It's a great. It has. What's his fucking name? He's
Clancy Brown.
Yes, yeah, fucking exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Two is. I mean, 1. I like 1. It's faithful to the book. The performances are uneven. No, I mean, I like how we go from Undeadly Ground to Pet Sematary. I mean, we're talking about TCM, but whatever. Who gives a shit? Let's run with it. No, I love the original Pet Sematary. I mean, the book. When I read the book, it completely destroyed me.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
As you may know, it was an unfilmable adaptation for a long time because of the kid getting run over and I think Romero actually came close to making it at a certain point, but didn't fly, and Mary Lambert finally got it going. I thought it really captured the essence of the book. The scene when the Gage meets a Mack truck always gets me, just the way that they cut it, boom, and then slow motion, no, and this is the fucking genius part about that scene. Then, and then the little fucking shoe rolling. I'm like, oh, such a beautifully constructed scene, editing wise, shot wise.
I agree. I think Gage scene is great.
Yeah, so I loved it. Part 2 is just fucking batshit crazy, and I love it for it. It takes, it's the same rules as Part 1, but it goes completely different direction. It didn't get the love that it deserved, in my opinion, because it's completely insane. It's gory as fuck. I mean, with the rabbits, when Clancy Brown's just skinning all the rabbits like nobody's business. Yeah, it's ape shit. So, and the remake sucked.
Poof.
What I really love about the original Hellraiser is that it was focused on Julia and Frank. She's basically it was very dramatic. It's a drama, but, on the side, you got some dude with blue head and nails in it and, a lot of fucked up shit going on. But the drama I found was very compelling. Julia, Frank, and I forgot the name of the husband, who's played by the guy that played the killer in Dirty Harry.
Oh, man, I don't know. I always think of him from, isn't he the leather-bound dude in Wes Craven's People on the Stairs? No,
that's Everett McGill. I thought the actors were great. I thought creatively it was very novel, very inventive. There was a subplot about Christie's boyfriend that I thought was a little too useless in terms of the bulk of the narrative. And I also thought that actor sucked, like monkey balls. So, but other than that, and, sometimes the ideas that the film had, they didn't really have the budget to really back it up, like that monster that goes down the hallway that's obviously being pushed like on a shopping cart or some shit. But overall, I think it's really, really engaging, really, I said bold already, I hate repeating myself, but it's really bold and brave film with really outstanding performances, some really nasty gore. I actually felt bad for all the guys because, Julia brings these guys, they all think they're getting a piece of tail, except, they get a fucking hammer in the head. I felt bad for those schleps, I'm like, those poor bastards. They think they got lucky and bing, that's it. So yeah, man. So yeah, I loved it. I love Hellraiser.
So I guess let me just say this right now. Last video, I kind of raw dogged 7 films. I couldn't do that anymore, so I have a few notes. Julia, I know she's sort of the main character of the first film. She's this sexual woman that essentially tries to seduce and bang a bunch of dudes to get their skin. Yeah. And it's just so weird rewatching it now because I mean, if it was Hellraiser was now, Julie would be kind of like Aunt May is in Spider-Man. Like it'd be versatile May. It'd be this hot, beautiful brunette. She looks like a mom.
Oh, I think her name was Claire Higgins.
Sure, but I'm just saying she
I
wasn't.
think she's pretty hot.
I think you should pull the picture, my friend, from Hellraiser 1987. I'm just saying, I watched her. I was like, oh, she's a mom. She is a mom. They didn't try to make her sexual at all. She was, she had like the weird 80 fucking pumpy haircut.
The big hair. Yeah. Can't go wrong with the big hair.
It was just her like getting like fat, chubby men at the bar. I was like, man, it's uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah. That's what I like. Yeah, the film is uncomfortable. It's cringe-inducing at times, but in a good way. Even when Frank winds up in the skin of the dude that played the bad guy in Dirty Harry, and that whole dynamic between, because with Christy, the daughter, but played by Ashley Lawrence, the dynamic between that, I remember, was it's uneasy, because he's a perv. She thinks it's her dad, but it's not. It's, Uncle Frank. Yeah, man. No, that movie has really aged well. And, the 80s, as much as we had like schlocky movies and stuff, we were still going off from the balls that the 70s had,
I think Hellraiser is surprisingly uncomfortable and gory, especially since the Friday the 13th series got such a shaft by the MPAA.
Yeah.
Hellraiser has a bunch of stuff where even now I'm like, ooh, the goes into some skin, it's like tearing it apart. The guy we're talking about actually looked it up, so it's Larry. His name's Andrew Robinson.
That's it, Andrew Robinson.
He has the whole thing at the end where he's hooked.
He says, Jesus wept.
Yeah.
Jesus wept.
Everything about Hellraiser, and especially now that I watch it more as I get older, I realize how uncomfortable everything is. I think a lot of it to me, though, is that it's supposed to be in America, and it's clearly not. It's Britain. And so it's like these small, cramped houses and these weird-looking streets. It's off. The whole movie's off. The fucking house, man. I now that I'm watching it, like all the floorboards are just essentially like an unfinished floor bothers me. And the fact the whole house says that, I'm like, yeah, that's enough. I don't need hell coming in. It's like just an ugly house. It's creepy enough for me, Yeah, I'm like, no. Furnish the house and finish the boards or I'm out, hell or not.
Yeah, fuck the demons. I don't care about that. Get a good carpenter.
Matters more.
Yeah.
Something else that caught me, I think, and this is something that I realize now that I'm older, I'm just watching movies from a different perspective, is that not all, but most of the voices in this are either dubbed over or they're this awkward ADR. And I have heard through, trivia and special features that, it's supposed to be set in England. Then, of course, they're like, well, with Mass Appeal, we're going to set in America. So they dubbed over Frank's voice. And the boyfriend, which I agree kind of sucks, Steve.
Yeah.
Because of that, it's this weird, like, disconnect. It's that, what's the word when it looks human, but it's not the, something void. I can't think now. But a lot of these characters in this movie have that weirdness to them. And I think it's because it's dubbed it in an American voice when it's clearly a British actor. That's always weirded me out,
Although Julia had her voice. She had a British accent.
Yeah, which they should have kept all of it. I don't get. I mean, I guess that's the thing in the 80s. I know they like Rumble in the Bronx is set in New York, but it's not,
It's so not New York.
I always make fun of Halloween. I love it to death, but, somebody who's from Illinois, I've never seen a palm tree or a hill in my life. Because it's so British, but it's not. It makes it so weird to me. Coming, obviously from an American. Something I wrote down that I think is kind of cool is that Pinhead doesn't show up until about the hour mark. And he's really only in it for like 10 minutes most. But that's so cool for such an iconic character to show up at the hour mark. Like you said, it's Larry, it's Julia, and it's
Frank and Christy or Kristen or
Kirsty, because I've said Kristen my whole life, and it's Kirsty. And we should say this. So I think Ashley Lawrence, out of the homegrown final girls, the ones that survived,
she's amazing.
I think she's the best actress, and I mean she's a cutie as well. Not that matters, but I'm just saying as a young,
no, it matters.
10-year-old boy, I thought she was gorgeous. But I rewatching like Halloween and rewatching a lot of the flicks from the 80s. I would put her up there as probably one of the best in terms of acting. Ashley Lawrence owns it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. She's really good. Dude, when she yells out at the end, she's with the puzzle box, and she finally solves it, and she yells to him, go to hell. Go to hell.
It's just so badass. And it's like the guy comes in for 10 minutes, drops the mic, and walks out.
Yeah. And that, and that's one thing that I think, and we're going to talk about them, some of the sequels that, especially part 3, that didn't get it. You know, what made, for me, Pinhead so compelling, even the other Cenobites, is they were side characters for, you know, they were there to support the human drama.
Yes.
You know, so the same thing happens in part 2. But the second Pinhead started to become Freddy, basically, Freddy Krueger, making him center stage. And that's when the franchise started to dip. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You know, it's the Bacardi.
The spiced rum.
Yeah.
So then what do you get? What are you going for? 8, 9, or 10?
I'm going 10. Fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll say 9. I think just because I try not to give out 10s if I don't have to. But it's,
asshole.
I just in case. So when I do
just a little bit
something.
And you know what? For everybody listening, do us a favor in the comments. Give us your rating. You know, you're hearing ours. Give us yours. Well, you know, Lance and I read the comments, even the people that are not very nice. So, you know, spit them out.
Hellraiser 2 is a good segue into what I think is, personally, an amazing sequel that's really bizarre. Hellraiser 2, to me, is the Ghostbusters 2 of this series. I'm going to start real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
It clearly mimics the first one's story for a good chunk of it, and then it becomes its own movie at the end. Julia then becomes Frank. Julia uses Gennard, which is the doctor at the Institute, which I love at Institute because it has this, you know, essentially a sane asylum at the bottom level, which is all crazy and rustic and unfinished. You know, it's the perfect movie setting for crazy people. And I think one of the best scenes that always gets me, and as I've gotten older, gets me even more, is when Gennard, which is the main doctor in the sequel, brings this person who's insane and gives him the knife and he lays on the mattress and he just starts cutting himself and goes nuts.
Yeah.
In terms of gore, it's amazing. And I'm surprised the MPA would ever allow that.
Well, that's I don't know which cut you've seen, the R-rated version of Hellbound or the unrated version. The unrated version has that scene. It's way fucking grislier.
So I own the
Anchor Bay?
The Scarlet box that came out from Arrow.
Oh, so it's probably the unrated.
And I feel like the unrated might be on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure. But either way, it's intense. It's enough where I don't know how it's cut, but it still messes with me. And a guy sees maggots on his face.
Yeah, that cuts himself. That's a rough scene.
Yeah, it's good. And Julie comes out. And I always think the sequel, I know it kind of follows the same beats for a good chunk of it. But once it gets into hell, and once it goes into the labyrinth and you get Leviathan and all that cool stuff, I love it. In fact, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial. The first one's a better movie. I prefer the second one in terms of entertainment. I always go back to the second. Pinhead's in it a slight bit more, not much. He comes in at the 53-minute mark as opposed to the hour, so it's really close. They're not overusing Pinhead too much.
No, not yet. But they give him, you know, the backstory. Yes. He has a Darth Vader moment, which, you know, I wasn't crazy about. Period.
I'll admit the idea of the backstory I'm not in love with just because now I have a time frame. I'm like, okay, well, this is the 80s. World War II is what, the 40s? Yeah, right. I mean, or at least with the, let's say the end of it, I'm not like the best of time. So it kind of says, okay, he's been in hell for 40 years. It's not as impressive as if this guy was from like, I don't know, the 12th century. Means, okay, well, this guy's like new, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, well, now that he's new, I want to know the ranking system here. What's the ranking? Like, how did he become the guy? If he's the guy who was guy before him, you know, is there other little sections in hell that have like a little troop? I don't know. I agree. It's cool, but now it opens up plot holes and questions, which then dilute it. I understand.
Yeah, I like the better when less is more. You know, so of course with any horror movie with a character like Pinhead, like Freddy, for example, or, you know, Jason even, or whatever. As the sequels go, they feel that they need to get more into the killer because they want to bring something new to the table. Like Halloween, for example, they went into the Thorn, the Druids, and all that crap. And for me, I feel it's a mistake.